Today we're going to answer the age-old question, do you talk to your mother with that mouth? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. People interact with each other based on the type of relationship or lack thereof that they have with that person. If we want our characters to feel like they're real people, then we need to write them like that. I'm author DC Ferguson, and this is the Worldbuilding Dojo. As always, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know if you like the channel, throw the Master of Kung Fu and Friendship some love, and sign up for my newsletter. You'll get updates on what I'm working on with both books and the channel, and every newsletter has links to some really cool authors you should know about. Character dynamics is one of those rarely discussed, often overlooked portions of character development. The funny thing is, even if you're not that well versed, you know when you've seen it done poorly. These are cardboard cutout characters that Hollywood executives shove down your throat. Like, do you like edgy, take nothing from no one badasses that don't afraid of anything? Do you like sarcastic, moody heroines that like to brood? Oftentimes, these one-note characters are like a bad comedian. They're always on, 24/7. No matter who they're dealing with, they always have a snarky comeback. No matter the stakes or the person they're fighting, they always have a one-liner on the tip of their tongue. This problem goes beyond the character being a stereotype or archetypal, because that's just a different kind of lazy writing. This mistake, the one of character dynamics, goes a step further than just lazy writing into the territory of handing off the writing of a symphony to someone that's tone deaf. They clearly don't even understand people, or at least not well enough to inform their writing. Most importantly, they don't understand their own characters beyond the surface stuff. Now, we as creators want our characters to flourish on a deeper level, so understanding character dynamics is that extra push, the secret sauce that makes them three-dimensional. DC, what are character dynamics, and how do we flex this secret muscle? Well, guy who talks to your monitor, character dynamics is the way each character in your story interacts with each other. So, let's say you go to work. There's your work buddy, and you guys can talk about anything. Maybe you even hang out when you're not at work. Then there's your work acquaintance. You can be friendly enough with each other, but it's mostly professional and you never see them outside of work. And then there's Karen, and you hate Karen, but you always keep it professional and only deal with her when you have to. See, that's three different dynamics in just one aspect of your life. Now, let's muddy the waters. Maybe your work buddy hates your work acquaintance because they went on a bad date together, but Karen is his work acquaintance and doesn't understand why you hate her so much. And your work acquaintance is Karen's best friend, which is why you always keep it professional. See, now we're weaving a really tangled web, right? These webs exist in everyday life. Your writing should be a reflection of that. Now, let's talk about how. So first, we're going to delve into the hypothetical, and then we're going to do an analysis with a practical example in this week's Deep Cut. Oh yeah, baby, it's back. So, setup-wise, let's go with a single protagonist. We'll call her Laura. We're going to stick purely to tropes here. So let's say she's the school nerd that gets powers. Her best friend is the class clown archetype. And then there's the bully, the popular cheerleader. And then since we're doing a high school setting here, we'll say the popular girl has a boyfriend that Laura has a crush on that's a star quarterback. Now, since we're in trope world, we already know the plot of this entire story just by me telling you who these four characters are. Think about it. Laura gets powers. Suddenly everybody realizes she's cool thanks to these powers. So she juggles keeping her identity a secret while her newfound fame lets her get noticed by her crush and get revenge on the bully. But this fame comes at a price, and she forgets her best friend. In the end, she saves the world, turns the bully into a friend, and realizes her best friend is way better to fall in love with than the star quarterback. I didn't need to tell you that. You already knew it. So let's look at how we can spin this on its head using character dynamics. Let's say years of bullying has left Laura with this ball of rage under the surface. If it wasn't for her best friend always making her laugh, she would have lost her mind years ago. So their relationship dynamic is now making her the number one person in her life. She's not going to separate from him. Let's make this bully a real evil person, but not just real evil. She's motivated by her emulation of her rich, evil CEO father. Now, her cruelty isn't a mask for insecurity, it's a reflection of the monster she looks up to. For good measure, let's be realistic and say that this clueless quarterback hero boyfriend knows full well how cruel she is, and he's totally fine with it. See, now the way this information starts dictating the way that these characters treat each other is totally different now. We've changed their dynamics completely, and now the story is far less predictable. Laura has always been one bad day from snapping. Now she has powers. This means she needs to learn restraint really fast or she's going to hurt somebody. In that regard, she leans on her friend perhaps stronger than ever before. With the quarterback being a bit of a jerk now, Laura could still have a crush on him, but only until he crosses a line that shows his true colors. So, let's say Laura's getting bullied again and her best buddy stands up for her. The quarterback threatens Laura's friend, and that crush goes away in an instant. Now, we're doing a totally different dance here, because the dynamics of these relationships change the story arcs far outside of stereotypical tropes and go into something deeper. Now, of course, this is all conjecture and hypotheticals. Let's actually see it in action. We want to see what great character dynamics looks like. And that brings us to this week's deep cut, the 1985 comedy Clue. Yes, the one based on the board game. Believe me when I tell you, this film is a masterclass in character dynamics, and we are going to analyze the crap out of it. So, fair warning, if you've never seen this film, pause me right now and go watch it. I don't even know why we're having this conversation. You need to do this right away. The master of Kung Fu and friendship will sit here, on pause, and practice his open palm lotus style. Alright, where to begin? Assuming you've already seen this film, the first thing that we're going to tackle here is the less obvious part of the script. Every single character in this story is a bad guy to one degree or another. All of them have committed an act of some kind that they are being blackmailed for, and the whole point of the film is that we believe every single one of them is capable of murder. So, we're not looking for a single hero or even a protagonist in this script. I know, it's getting weird already. The real trick of this film is to take these characters from different walks of life, add in what they're being blackmailed for, and the type of personality that they have, then force them all into a dinner party where they're basically strangers to each other. A murder happens, and now we see how each of these characters bounce off of each other as they're trying to solve this case under pressure. What would certainly make for a compelling Agatha Christie plot is turned on its head. This is a comedy, and it never forgets that, but it's also smart and very well written. The fact that this was based off of a board game is baffling, because licensed properties are almost never this good, but here we are. So, let's get into it and take a look at Professor Plum, played by Christopher Lloyd. He's a psychologist, and his blackmail crime is that he seduced a patient. The way this expresses itself in the film is that he analyzes the situation, usually being a reasonably cool head, looking for answers and explanations. The chink in his armor is that he's a total pervert, and this is reflected in his character dynamics with the female characters. He's always hitting on them. His language toward them is loaded with double entendres, and as the kids would say, he comes off as super thirsty. Now, let's contrast him against Mr. Green, played by Michael McKean. He is a mild-mannered, meek, timid type of guy that works for the State Department. He's being blackmailed for being gay in the rather intolerant period of the 1950s. Because of his mild-mannered nature, every character walks all over him, and he's often the butt of jokes. He's the one that makes a lot of points, but they often go overlooked by the other characters, and they dismiss or mock him. Additionally, unlike Professor Plum, the female characters can't use their wiles against him. Now that's just 2 characters. There are 7, plus the butler, plus Yvette the maid. Not one single character in the movie treats 2 characters the same way. Professor Plum is intrigued and thirsty for Miss Scarlet, while Mr. Green doesn't trust her. Scarlet doesn't like either of them, but for 2 different reasons. Plum is too thirsty and everything that she hates about men, while Mr. Green, being gay, means her years of experience as a madam for high-priced call girls won't give her an advantage over him. Meanwhile, Colonel Mustard is a former client of her service and doesn't know that she was the madam, which gives her power over him by keeping that trump card of "I know who you are" in her back pocket. You can see this in scenes where she's bouncing off of Colonel Mustard, that she revels in the power that she has over him. So this is where lessons on motivation have their outward effects. We understand these characters better by how they treat other people. That's what character dynamics is all about, expressing who your characters are through their interpersonal relationships. In this film, it is put to the magnifying glass because they're all strangers. Another great example of this phenomenon is 12 Angry Men, which we previously analyzed in a past video on Atmosphere. Avengers is a more modern example, but now you're starting to get the point. Ensemble casts utilize character dynamics a lot because you can develop your characters through the way that they treat each other and keep the story flowing. You don't have to stop and smell the flowers with long-winded exposition and info dumps to tell the reader who these people are. It shines through how they act and react to others. Now, while all of these examples that we use today are with large ensemble casts, don't forget, I highlighted in our hypothetical example earlier where we were doing it with a lone protagonist. Character dynamics should inform every bit of your writing. It tells you who a person is and makes them feel more fleshed out and multifaceted. Character dynamics is our next level secret to building characters in our world that feel real. No one treats any 3 or 4 people the same way, and neither should your characters. Use this knowledge as you get to know who your characters are better, and it will inform your writing. Now, as a reminder, don't forget that link in my newsletter is in the comments, and feel free to write me back. I love hearing from fans and talking shop. Plus, you get to hear all the latest goings on with the Dragon's Dream saga. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear about new videos. And as always, I'm DC Ferguson. Now have fun and get crafting.